The most important person in the whole wide world is you, and you hardly even know you. The most important person in the whole wide world is you. Come on, we'll show you. Let's find out more about the things you feel and do, 'cause you're the most important person in the world to you.
Hello, 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 and welcome to One4ALLisLove with Sonia Spirit, and I am Sonia Spirit. And today, so interesting, today we were going to have a live guest, in-studio guest, and we were going to have a conversation with a millennial titled, What's on Your Mind? However, our guest has become unavailable, unfortunately, and these things do happen. So we will just have to ad-lib this particular episode. And actually, one of the things that I did want to talk about, and if you are a subscriber to One4ALLisLove on Facebook, I kind of touched on it. And it had to do with actually practices or, exercises, things that we can do. And, I know I've discussed this in other episodes in which I talked about avoid using or eliminate using the word not into your vocabulary, because first of all, it's not natural, okay? And we'll get into that of why it's not natural. Where did this come from? What was this conclusion? I am looking for a book, and it appears to have escaped me. So please forgive me if I think I found it. Okay. If I sound a little distracted or preoccupied. Okay, I should be able to focus. So, and of course I've been doing this myself because, we know that, okay, we have our thoughts, we have our language, speech, whatever you want to call it. So we have our thoughts, we have our language, we have our emotions, which are our feelings. And then, of course, we have our actions. Our actions is just like physical manifestation, really an end result. And to a certain degree, so are words, but they have, force behind. Well, all of it has force. All of it has energy because everything is energy. But what we need to recognize is that we want to get everything in alignment. We want our thoughts to be in alignment with our language, to be in alignment with our feelings, our emotions. And of course, then the natural course of action would be action, of course, if all of those things are in alignment. And when all of those things are in alignment, and then we align ourselves also with the superconscious, spirit, whatever you want to call it, and we're able to manifest a lot faster. Okay, so we know that. I've belabored that point. So, but things that we need to do and things we need to, focus on is our own personal behavior. What prevents us from basically manifesting the life that we want? And here is where you have to be honest with yourself, okay? If you're still, this is what I mean, if we're still blaming other people for anything in our life, then we're not ready yet. You have to understand that every experience that you have serves a purpose in your life. Now, it serves a purpose in someone else's life if there's other people involved, but that's not your concern, okay? What is your benefit? What are you supposed to learn and grow from this experience? So that's what I mean by being on the same page or the right page. because moving forward, listen, it's all about healing, okay? We have the power to heal ourselves. And we have the mental power to heal ourselves. We have the mental power to heal each other. But once you heal yourself, you don't need somebody else to heal you. Once you recognize that all the power is within you, then you don't need someone else for anything else. Not to get you to the part where you're supposed to be. You know, we're supposed to be whole. You know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we're supposed to be whole, and the creativity would be off the chain. Okay, but we're not going down that vein right now. But so that's why it's important for us to understand that nothing happens to us. There are no accidents, happenstances, coincidence. Okay, they're just life lessons, and yes, some of them hurt worse than others. But there's trade-offs to everything. Okay, so, you know, going through life, learning and growing vicariously through others, while that sounds like a great way to go through life, you know, minimizing pain, it could slow down your process. And when I say that, your growth process, people learn from pain. Once you can accept that this is your experience and you are supposed to learn and grow from it, you can learn and grow from it, and you can richly benefit from it. But you have to be able to perceive things through that type of lens or that type of filter or from that perspective. Because everything is mental. So all we're talking about is a shift in perspective. Oh, there's a beautiful line in the kids' movie, cartoon movie, Ratatouille. And the critic, the food critic that everyone despises, this old ogre-looking guy, and he comes in and they ask him what he wants, and he said, I want a fresh perspective. And that's basically what it all boils down to. And we have the power to change our perspective. Like that. That's why you can instantly do things. Mind is over matter. Now, I understand the concept of being, you know, physically addicted. However, there are people who have smoked cigarettes for I don't know how long and quit cold turkey. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it is mind over matter. But it's also as you believe. Okay? So if you believe or you perceive yourself as weak or a victim, then that perception, that's your energy, that's your persona, that's the energy that you're generating. And which basically means, remember, if you follow the broadcast at all, I say if you are not using your energy, something else is. Because everything is energy. Everything is energy. And when I say it, it almost has a sinister connotation to it. And perhaps maybe intentional, maybe not intentional. Which truthfully it shouldn't be intentional, because then that would be fear-based teaching. And I do not promote that. I prefer educating or providing the truth as I know it. And I'm okay. Listen, everyone should question everything. And you can. And you don't even have to go far. Jesus said it in the Bible, ask and ye shall receive. So if there is a question that you want an answer to, ask the question. Rightfully so that God is on this pedestal, but God is also very interpersonal. God is, was, and ever will be everything. And no thing, I'm doing the air quotes, no thing, nothing would breaking up the word, the N-O from the T-H-I-N-G. God is everything and no thing, no one thing. God is everything and nothing at all. And we can't even relate to the nothing at all. But, okay, so that's, so that's the beauty. The beauty is tap into it. And that's why people who are deeply spiritual, they may come across as deeply religious, okay? And you can be both. Now, we know people that are deeply religious and barely spiritual. However, there are people that are both. And these people have a very healthy connection to God, regardless of how they define the relationship. It's the connection. Because we get caught up on how things, if something has been described to us one way, we get stuck on that. First of all, quantum physics, quantum reality is all about the possibility of any potential outcome. Now, I'm not a physicist, so I'm sure it's a whole lot more than that. Just bear with me. That's God being dynamic. Every possible outcome is potential. It's a potential outcome. There's a possibility that it could exist. And there's been some great TV shows about like multiple or quantum realities. But anyway, so that's why anything is possible. And that's why we're only limited by our imagination. When we get stuck in a rut of thinking, we imprison ourselves. We stunt our creativity. That's why it's important for us to begin examining the way we think, the way we speak, how we feel. Are we saying something that conflicts with how we really feel? That means you're a liar. You got to fix that, okay? This is not about how you're presenting yourself. This is about who you really are, your energy at your core. Don't worry about what your neighbors think. Don't worry about what your sister or your brother or your siblings or any of your family members think or your co-workers. Don't worry about that. Don't concern yourself about that. And if those are the things that you are concerned about, then we have a little bit more work to do. I'm not saying that these things are not relevant. In the physical world, it has its place. Listen, don't get it twisted. I like to get up and, look a little jazzy every now and again myself. And in the past, it was probably I spent more time doing that than not. But my point is this: as you move along your path, on your journey, at your pace, things are going to change. And truthfully, you want them to change. You want to, slough away things that don't serve your best interest. Now, and you have to come to terms with that. What does that mean to you? And when I say that, listen, I'm not saying sacrifice, live minimally. That's not what I'm saying. To each his own. Look, if you're a flamboyant person, that's perfectly fine. If that's your road, that's your road. That's not for me to judge. That's not for anyone to judge. And that's something else we got to get away from. We don't know what someone else's journey entails. We have our experiences. We have experiences that intersect. And we can all grow and benefit from it if we're in that place. Now, one person's growth is not codependent on the next person's growth. Even though they are shared experiences. The growth and benefit opportunities are independent of each other. But that's the beauty of God. I mean, and when you can see that God is both dynamic and structured or orderly, it's so beautiful because that's what harmony is. Harmony is just this beautiful blend of something creative, never before experienced, by just using all of what you have in a certain order. Anyway, okay. So getting back to exercises, being mindful of your thoughts, okay? You want to spend more time, first of all, getting to know yourself. So asking questions. And write down your questions. What do you want to know about yourself? If that's the path that you want to take. Some people might say, I don't even care about what has happened in the past. Let's move forward. And if that's your course of action, that's even easier. Because basically, if you can put your past behind you, and when I say that, I mean like you can learn as you continue to grow and not take anything for granted. And if you can put, things behind you, not carrying them as burdens and extracting whatever lessons that you needed to extract, then you could probably move a lot faster because basically what you're doing is saying, if I had the opportunity to build the person that I wanted to be or build the life that I want to have, and you can stick to it. You can live it out. You can play it out, act it out, be it, embody it, fake it till you make it, as I said a few episodes ago. Then you will probably have your reality unfold a lot faster. It's people that have to swim through baggage, that have to release, like when I talked about the hot air balloon image. In order to elevate, you have to release your sandbags that are weighing you down. So, and for these people, and people have different sandbags, because they're conditionings. First, you want to recognize your conditionings. What are some of your conditions or some of your habits that do not serve your best interest? Is it your language? Okay. Is there conflict between what you say and what you feel? Okay. Are you living a lie? Whether it's in relationships, are you living one with yourself in terms of the work you do? But you have to evaluate yourself, okay? And but you have to understand that everything begins and ends with you. That does not mean anything is your fault, because this is not about blame. When you are trying to grow, there is no blame. From a spiritual perspective, God doesn't say, well, that punishing God stuff in the Bible, there's a lot of gold in the Bible, a lot of gold. But you do also have some creative licenses, okay? God does not punish, okay? Punishment, especially punishment, gives the impression of an emotion, okay? Now, in terms of harmony, when there's disharmony, there is a restoration of harmony. Now, and that restoration, if you look through a certain filter, could be considered corrective action, or could be considered, I guess some people would say, punishment. Others may call it cause and effect, or karma. Okay? But God is not a punishing God, because God is not an emotional God. Emotions are energy, and we only have feelings associated with this energy because of our physical experience as a person, mankind, if you will. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so we have thoughts. We got to work on our thoughts. How do you think? Okay, and what do you think about? Do you spend time worrying? And you may not even consider it, worry in terms of fret but if it's occupying your mind, basically you're telling your mind, hey, this is something of interest because you're paying attention. The most valuable thing you have is your attention. The most valuable thing you have is your attention because whatever you focus your attention on is what is manifesting. Okay, that's basically what the conscious is telling the subconscious. Hey, let's make some of this. Let's materialize this. Okay, that's why it's important. What you pay attention to. That's why it's called actually paying attention, because you are exchanging your mental energy for something, whatever you're paying attention to. Okay. So you want to be mindful of your thoughts. There's no need to worry about bills. Now, if you want to focus on attracting money, then that's what you do. Don't focus on the problem or the symptom. Get to either the source of relief or the source of the pain. And in this case, I don't know what the source of the pain as far as the bills, other than, a lack of income or whatever. So in that case, you can, don't focus on the shortage of money or the lack. Focus on the abundance. And there's quite a few things that you can Google online. Listen, there's so many free resources, but, focus with the end in mind. And basically what that means is the same concept as fake it till you make it. Think about, what it feels like when you have enough money to pay your bills. Now, if you've never had that experience, just imagine not having any bills, period. Same concept, okay? It's not that you think about because it's satisfied. Okay, here's a good one. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It is a pyramid-shaped grid, and it has horizontal levels. And at the bottom, so basically it's saying that as a need is met, a new opportunity opens up, and another opportunity of to a need or is opened up to be satisfied. Let me explain, because I don't know if I did that any justice. I don't know if that helped anyone. But anyway, at the bottom it's called safety, security. I think I need to Google it. But safety, security, and it's the physical element. So it's like food, shelter. It's like food, shelter. Okay, here we go. All right, so yes, physiological needs is at the bottom, what they call basic needs. And it is food, water, warmth, and rest. So basically food, water, and shelter, because warmth and rest is shelter. Okay, well, rest would be security or safety. Okay, but then the next rung up is safety needs, and it's saying security and safety. So food, water, shelter is the bottom one, the very bottom one, physiological needs, then safety needs, which is security and safety. Then the third rung up is 5 rungs. The third rung up is belongingness and love needs, and this is about relationships, connectivity, social needs, cultural, things like that, intimate relationships, friends. And this falls on the psychological needs scale versus the basic needs. Basic needs was physiological and safety, and then psychological needs is the belongingness and love needs, and then the next one up, which is all esteem needs. Esteem is defined as prestige and feeling of accomplishment, recognition. And of course, esteem is is really outward approval, to be quite honest, is what it boils down to. But, I mean, Yeah, well, so is intimate relationships and friends. Um, and then the last one at the top, and this one is relatively high, but is self-actualization, achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. And so basically, Abraham Maslow was saying that, this is man's hierarchy of needs, and as one need is met, you go up to the next one because you've satisfied that level, so it's no longer a concern. So that's what it's like with when I was saying if you've never had. If you've always had bills and you've never been in a position where you've never had to not worry about it, I was just saying imagine not having any because you wouldn't be concerned with them. If you had no bills, there was nothing to entertain. So think of it as that, But release that energy because whatever you entertain in your mind, what's happening is you're practicing some routines, and of course, whatever you practice, particularly the iterations, is what ends up getting programmed into the subconscious, and the subconscious is the one that goes out to the superconscious and collects all the necessary material to, of course, create the physical form of the mental image that the conscious/ego has been entertaining. That's why it's critical to, make sure you're entertaining the correct thoughts. So, and when you catch yourself, think of, figure out what the opposite is. Like I said, if you're sitting around worried about money, if you're sitting around and you can't stand your job, don't think about what you don't like. Don't think about the reasons you hate that job. Imagine what the ideal job, and you read this stuff all the time in these self-help books, and this is the reason why. You have to force yourself. You have to practice. You have to do the work. You know what I mean? You have to imagine yourself in the opposite environment. Because if you don't, all you're going to do is to continue to manifest the mess that you don't want that you're currently in. I run into people all the time, some of them really good friends, and they always want to talk about the tragedies or the hardships and, certain people, and I have to remind them, you're doing it again. You're doing it again. And it's like, I know, but there is no but. This is why this nonsense won't go away. You are facilitating it. You are manufacturing. You are mixing it up. And now you want to share it with me. I don't want it. So, and if you have friends and family, if there are people who begin, because I'm not going to tell you to cut anybody off. Your energy is going to tell you that. Your energy is going to start pulling away. That's why I say you don't have to listen to me, but if you are serious about making changes, changes will happen. Because when you're serious about making changes, your energy is going to change. Because what has changed? Your intent. Your intent is energy. You don't have to say anything. Think it, feel it, know it, be it. Your energy will change. That's why they say there are so many tricks, so many things you can do to trick yourself into feeling differently. And in the beginning, if you are addicted to negativity, negative energy, negative people, negative events, if you are addicted to it, and eventually you will know it because somebody's going to tell you, you keep talking about the same thing, or maybe your little voice will tell you, this doesn't benefit you, this doesn't serve you, this isn't for your highest good. Okay? If you don't trust anyone else to tell you, certainly listen to the little voice. And listen, when you hear the little voice, you ain't crazy. Don't buy into that. That voice is talking to you for a reason. Now, you need to make sure you're paying attention And in which direction is this going? Because, since we've eaten from the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, then we are subject to the law of polarity / duality. So there will always be the choice of good or bad. And the middle way. Okay. All right, so being cognizant of your thoughts, it does require practice. That's one thing. Also, language. So I posted something about the word not on Facebook, I don't know, sometime last week. And of course, this was during my meditation, so these, it's inspiration that came to me about the word not. And I'll just read what came to mind because I was prepared to do a different show, so I didn't really kind of prepare to kind of go over this. But many of us are conditioned mentally to default to negative thinking and emotionally to default to feelings of fear. These conditions impede our ability to create, manifest what we imagine or what we can imagine. These are just rough thoughts after meditation. So the word not, N-O-T, primarily used as an adverb, is defined as used with an auxiliary verb or be to form the negative. For example, he would not say. Okay, so it is used with an auxiliary verb or a form of be, to form the negative of something. It's also used as a short substitute for a negative clause. For example, maybe I'll regret it, but I hope not. Okay, auxiliary verbs, what are those? Auxiliary verbs for be, are am, are, be, been, being, is, was, were. Half of these words are conjoined with not to form a negative contraction. For example, aren't, isn't, wasn't, and weren't. The other half are forced to pair with the word to negate its form. I have the words force and form, of course, underlined. So the other half are forced to pair with the word to negate its form. For example, am not be, not being, not been. These words do not have a contractual form. So let's move on using am. So am is one of the ones that does not have like a amped, am not. So God is I am, and we are I am. I am God is the capital A, capital I, capital A, and we are I am, capital I, lowercase a. We are God. We are the individuated expressions of God. We are God's individuated spirit. Exodus 3:14, of course, I've mentioned this a couple of times. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Thus thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And then, of course, Proverbs 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Now, what does all this have to do with not? Let's continue. Just bear with me. So the definition of be, be, it is a verb which means to exist or just exist. Am, am, is also a verb. It means first person singular present of be. So it is a reference. I am referring to myself in the first person, I. That is important because God referred to itself as I am. And who else refers to itself as I am? We do. That's not a coincidence, boys and girls. This is why it is important. This is why language is important, okay? You know, we call things magic. Magic is what? Magic is something we just don't understand, okay? So if it appears to be out of the ordinary or supernatural, there's no such thing as supernatural. I mean, everything is of God. Really, supernatural is a word invented to make people comfortable with things that they're unfamiliar with. So it's supernatural, superstition, all of this stuff. But once you come to terms with that, everything is God, and I mean, let that sink in. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while, and it's not like it's permeating through 24/7. It's going to take a while. It's going to take several iterations or sessions of meditation or just seconds of rumination. But once it sinks in and we hit that critical mass, oh my goodness, it's going to be a beautiful thing. The love, respect, the appreciation, the connection that people will have for each other, people will have with animals and nature will have, animals will have with each other, nature, I mean, it's just going to be beautiful. Okay, so that's me on my utopia thing. All right. And I don't know how I got to, okay, so anyway, yes, so just talking about am and be. So in Revelations 1:8, God enlightens us. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, which is, which was, and which is to come, the Almighty, which is, of course, the translation is I am, was, ever will be. There is nothing, no thing that God is not. Okay, so and now this we do really have to wrap our heads around. So in Revelations 1:8, God says, I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, which is and which was and which is to come, the Almighty, period, okay? And God is saying, I am it, period. I am it. I am everything that exists, and I am nothing at all. And like I said, we can't even relate to the nothing at all because of the little silly mechanism of our consciousness using eyes. We can't fathom the nothing at allness, the nothingness of God. We cannot. But it's okay. Okay. And it is okay. But so there is nothing that God is not. So not doesn't even exist. This is a man-made creation. It doesn't exist. It's like, okay, so it's like the absolute value, the mathematical absolute value. Did I touch on this? No, okay. But it's like, okay, so when I talk about how the word not couldn't possibly exist in relationship to God, is because everything is God. Okay? And from a mathematical standpoint, I've mentioned absolute value before, but like, okay, so the absolute value of a negative or positive number, you put these brackets around the absolute value, and the sign no longer serves a purpose. It is only about the value of the number, okay? And because whether it's movement, frequency, vibration, whatever it is assigned to, it's only about the value of the number, because truthfully, the positive and negative doesn't, in the absolute, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. It only tells you which way the number is moving on the continuum, you know. Okay, is it to the left or to the right? Is it to the north or to the south? So it's basically defining a position, where God is everywhere. So you can't define a position of God, because God is not in any one place. God is everywhere. Okay, so hopefully you get that. Why not doesn't exist, just like positive and negative does not exist, because God embodies all of that. And positive and negative, of course, that's the law of gender, male and female. Okay, I did write it. It says, think about the mathematical concept of absolute value. It is the magnitude of a real number without regard to its sign. God expresses only the absolute value of energy, whereas man, having eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, subjecting him to duality, can express a positive or negative outcome of its energy. Hey, so glad I found that in my notes. Okay. So this is why we want to eliminate the word not because what we may be doing is attracting something that we really don't want. Okay? Think about when you talk about how you can't stand anyone. You know, I can't stand this person. I don't like this person. Whenever we say, you know, and when we use conjunctions, we don't even half the time understand we're using the word not. But, you know, can't, don't, won't, weren't, isn't, ain't. You know, at one point in time, ain't was not a word. Because what does it represent? Aren't is aren't. There is not one for am, and ain't is not is. So isn't has its own, isn't. So I don't know what ain't goes to, but anyway. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so that's the word not, and how you don't want to incorporate. See, you don't want. This is what I'm talking about, and I have to work on it. You know, that I should be able to express this sentence without using the word don't. We want to express our sentences without using negative connotations or, you know, the word not. And you can express things negatively without using the word not. Okay. But, okay, so that was one thing. It was another exercise that I had. Another one was, okay, let me finish this one. Sorry about the not. Okay, so now let's examine the homophone, K-N-O-T. So if you looked on my on Facebook, there's a picture of like a rope with a knot in the middle. Now the rope is just kind of extended, but you don't get to see the end. But it's important because the K-N-O-T, of course, is pronounced not. Let me tell you, once again, folks, this is not a coincidence that these words sound alike, spelled differently, have different meanings. Vibrationally speaking, they have different energy, but they also will have a different energy than the word like N-O-T from K-N-O-T, because there'll be different energy behind like that visual. But I created the visual on purpose. The purpose for the visual is this. So you look at the picture, and first of all, you see that the knot between, within the rope, the knot impedes the fluidity of the energy from one end of the rope to the other. Okay, so it slows, stops, impedes the flow or fluidity. Okay, so and remember that God is absolute energy, and there are no knots, K-N-O-T-S or N-O-T-S, exist to impede God's emanation or God's flow, God's spreading, okay, God's being, if you will. So knots, K-N-O-T-S and N-O-T-S are man-made construct employed to abbreviate, disrupt, and or distort creative power. How about that? So when you see a knot, when you use the word not, when you hear the word not, if an image of the word not, and it's even better if we have a picture of maybe like a red rope with knot. So yeah, the word not behaves similarly because, so the word not, let me go, K-N-O-T-S, K-N-O-T-S, means it has some very interesting meanings of its own. Uh-oh, what is going on here? Okay. It has some very interesting meanings of its own. One of them is a tangled mess. So one noun for knot is a tangled mess. And then there were two verb meanings. One meant to make tangle, or to cause to become tense and hard. So think about that. To cause something to be tense and hard is to calcify, to solidify, to concretize. Okay? So a tangled mess caused to become tense and hard. So it sounds like the thing that we don't want when we use the word not, when we say, I can't stand, or I can't do, or, I'm not this, or I don't, I won't, I can't, I wouldn't. We are solidifying a tangled mess when we use the word not. So that's why I don't want to say I need. That's why it's imperative that we are mindful of it. And the reason that we have the rope association, because you need, and then moving forward, you want to create visual effects for things that you want to remember. Okay? Now, in this case, we don't really want to remember using the word not. We want to be mindful of using the word not. So the imagery of the rope with the knot in it is to speak to our subconscious, okay? Which is why it was necessary to, I don't want to say necessary, but that's why it was helpful, I think, to add the additional meanings for the word K-N-O-T, because it is a tangled mess, and it does cause something to become tense and hard, and generally, it's something that we don't want. But because the universe doesn't recognize the positive and negative sign, only the absolute value of a thing, then it's going to manifest the very thing that we really don't want to attract. Okay. So, that's one exercise, being mindful of the word not and using it in all communications, not just language-wise, emails, text, chat boxes, so even if you use like shortcuts or abbreviations, be mindful. And that was another thing that I thought was clever too when I looked up the definitions for K-N-O-T. I was like, oh, so you can't really be too clever because then you're still attracting the thing that you don't want, the tangled mess, the concretizing. Another exercise that came to mind, and it's so interesting, but another exercise that came to mind was, okay, the concept is living with nature. Hear me out. So, I'm working on all these things too. So, in general, in the past, I would kill a bug if I saw one of any kind. Spider, ant, wasp, bee, roach certainly didn't stand a chance. Water bug that looked too much like a roach certainly didn't stand a chance. Beetles, the whole nine. I never gave it a second thought. So, of course, and gnats and flies, mosquitoes. Okay. So, of course, being on the path, and not just, being on the path, saying I'm on the path, but working, because the work, it's all about the work. And you have to do it yourself. There is no shortcut from doing the work, okay? None. So anyway, so that, to make a long story less long, there was a wasp in the house. And it's been here for, I don't know, it seems like forever, but it's probably been maybe 2-3 weeks. But we don't see it every day. And I won't kill it. Like, if it's not bothering me, I'm not going to kill it, And so, we let it go. It disappeared. And then next thing you know, it came back with a friend. It was 2 of them. Now I was like, are you kidding me? Because I mean, I'm purposely not killing it. So I'm engaging in the experience, but it's like I'm not gonna respond like I would have in the past. But now you bring in friends that you messing with me. Is this it? Of course, this is the ridiculous stuff that's going through my head. So my sweetie opens up the door, and the extra one, who knows wherever it came from, it left. So we still have the original one, to the best of my knowledge, in the house. I mean, and it flies around, and sometimes it gets close, but it doesn't really, get into my personal space. But, I don't have an aversion to, wasps, or I'm not allergic to it, or, I'm not one of those people who scream and holler when they see bugs and stuff. So, it's not like I'm doing a whole lot, but just the fact that I'm not killing it because I just deem hey, you're in my space. And I used to say that, see, if you wasn't in my space, it wouldn't be a problem. And so that was my excuse for killing it. I guess that was my justification to myself, for why you just destroyed this life. And I know it sounds really over the top because I'm talking about a wasp, but at the end of the day, it still is a life. And of course, I think it's Jainism is a religion, a branch of religion. And, they think that even killing microbes is, I don't want to say murder, but, basically is killing life. So I'm not to that point. However, I am trying to be a whole lot more sensitive. And let me say this. I'm not judging anyone, because I am so far removed, because it's work. I'm not going to fool you. And when I say it's work, I don't mean it's hard, but you do have to be, it takes a conscious effort, is what I'm saying. When I say that it's work, it takes a conscious effort. Now, when you're passionate about something, work doesn't feel like work, okay? But this takes a conscious effort, because A, you may be addicted to bad habits, okay? B, this is your default programming, okay? Whether you're addicted or not, this is your default programming, so it's easier to do. This is where you go when you just completely zone out, when the ego checks out. This is default programming. So it's necessary for us to change this so that we can become better, but it is a process, like I said. But it can be as easy as flipping a switch or changing your perspective, or it can be a process. And even if you're able to flip a switch, how long can you keep the switch on? So these are the things that we have to bear in mind. Like people say all the time, this is not about getting to the top. The hardest part is staying there. So recognizing your shortcomings, that's only half the battle. Knowledge, information is only half the battle. Application is the other half. We have to apply what we learn. Otherwise, then it's useless talent, wasted potential. And we see that all the time, every day. But it's not our place to judge. Everybody's in their own place and space. And they're growing at their own pace. So if your life calls to intersect with someone else's, learn and grow from it. You're in it too. This ain't about just, sharing what you know, or say, hey, look at me. Look what I've been blessed with. Look what I've been given. It's about sharing what you know. And not only that, but applying too. I could easily sit here and say, oh, I got this meditation message and blah, blah, blah. And I would be right in saying it. But I want it to be understood that, yeah, this might be hard for you. It can be easy. And it might be easy and it might be hard. But you have to work at it. That's why you have to set the table with meditation. Morning meditation, however you define it. Whether it's 5 minutes or just sitting in silence and quiet and peace. Or if you spend a whole hour, you have a whole routine and a whole schedule, that is wonderful. Whatever works for you. But we want to make God first in our lives. And it's so easy for us to get away from that because we do have a creative ability. And we do have a dual nature. We do have a conscious mind. So it's easy for so many of us to think we are the best thing happening. We are, and we are not. We are because God made us, and everything God made is special. And we are not because we are also a part of the collective whole. And we are the fabric for each other. We are the whole, and we are the individuated fire, all in one. We have our past, we have our present, and our future embodied in one body. I was telling my stepson that earlier. I was like, you have your genes from your ancestors, you're physically present, and you carry your future in your loins. We're filled with trilogies. We are some fantastic creatures. And the more we learn about ourselves, the more knowledgeable we'll become, the more powerful we will become. But power won't mean as much as it does now. It's the lack that gives things, or the appearance of things, so much power. I mean, we do have power, but many of us don't know it. We don't know how to use it. Not in the best interest of all. I'll put it that way. Okay. All right, we are down to the last 3 minutes. I do want to hold up the healing hands for friends and family in need of some healing energy. May God fill their head, their hearts, their hands, their whole being with healing light, God's abundant, bright, healing, intelligent energy, light, flowing all over their bodies, healing them from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet. They are healthy, whole, and complete. So be it, and so it is, friends. Okay, that is all that we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. My apologies. My special guest wigged out on me, but that's the millennials for you. So, not that I'm saying all millennials are like that, but they are very me-focused, a very me-oriented group. But, okay, so anyway, 90 seconds, we're done. Thank you for your time and attention. You have a great rest of the week. Happy Hump Day. Enjoy your weekend. Be kind to one another. Let's love each other. Yes, we are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper. Ask, believe, and receive. Okay. Goodbye.